Sangpo and welcome to Bhutan this week with me, Sharab Sangmo, our top stories for the week. Fewer people cast their votes in the National Council elections this year. Only about 45% of the registered voters turned up as opposed to the 53% voter turnout in 2007. And not a single female candidate was elected to the National Council, raising the issue for quota for women once again. Cabinet ministers are not in favor of stopping candidates after the primary round of elections. Bhutan has elected 20 representatives to the National Council. The election results were officially declared on Wednesday by the Chief Election Commissioner and was broadcast live on BBS. Nima won the seat for the councillor from Bhutan with a total of 2,264 votes. He contested with other three contestants, including the former councillor Thong Jurmi. While in Chuka, Pema Tenzin secured the maximum votes at 6,995, with former candidate Thong Lhamo losing the seat for the National Council. And Dagana re-elected the former councillor Sonam Doji. Being the lone candidate, he got 7,989 yes votes and with only 1,774 no votes. Similarly, in Gaza, the people once again elected the former candidate Sangye Khandu, who secured 603 votes. People of Ha also re-elected their former councillor Tsering Dorji with a total of 1,866 votes. While the people of Thunsi chose the new candidate Tempa Doji over the former candidate Rinzi Rinzin, he got 3,193 votes. Likewise, in Monga too, the youngest candidate Sona Mongchu secured 4,821 votes, winning him a seat in the National Council. From the two other contestants in Monga, one is the former councillor Nechu. Kaka Tsering is the new elect from Paro Dzongkhag. He won the seat by securing 2,422 votes. From Pemagatsel, Jigme Rinzin, the former councillor, was once again elected. He got 5,184 votes. While in Punakha, Rinzin Doji is the new elect, securing 3,449 votes. People in Samrup Jongkhar once again were in favor of the former NC member Jigme Wanchu over the other two candidates. He secured 5,213 votes. And in Samtsi, with the highest number of candidates contesting, Sangye Khandu won the seat in the National Council, securing 9,907 votes. In Sarpang, Tan Bahadur Mongar won the elections with 4,131 votes. There were four other aspiring candidates in the Dzongkhag. Nima Gelson is the councillor from Thempo Dzongkhag, winning the elections after getting 2,250 votes. And the Tashigang's lone candidate, the former councillor Tasho Dr. Sonam Kinga, once again gets re-elected. He received 11,219 yes votes and 2,620 no votes. In Tashiangsi, Tashifunsu won the seat for the National Council with 3,226 votes. Trongsa has chosen Tharchen over former member Dr. Jagar Doji. Tharchen got 2,083 votes. Similarly, in Tsirang, Kamal Bahadur Gurung was elected after securing 2,381 votes. The former councillor Justin Gurung could manage only over 400 votes. Wangdiforang elected Tashi Doji, giving him 5,848 votes. The former councillor Sonam Yangchen received 3,540 votes, including postal ballots. And voting in Shemgang was no different from Wangdi. People chose a new candidate, Pema Drakpa, the new NC member from the Dzongkhag. He secured 2,413 votes. The former councillor Pema Lhamo got the least votes. Sharab Sangmo for PBS News. 14 former National Council members contested in the National Council elections and only 6 managed to get re-elected.
The former NC members of Kasa, Ha, Bumtang, Mongar, Linsi, Pemagasil, Tashigang, Samrup Jongkhar, Wangdiforang, Chuka, Dagana, Trongsa, Tsirang, and Shemgang contested in yesterday's NC elections. As the polls closed and the votes were counted, it became clear that voters in many of these Songkhaks went for newcomers. Of the 14 former NC members who recontested, only 6 got re-elected. They are Gasa Sangikhandru, Tashigang's Dasho Dr. Sonam Kinga, Ha Sring Doji, Pema Gasil's Jimmy Rinzin, Samrup Jonkhar's Jimmy Wangchuk, and Dagana's Sonam Doji. The rest 8 former NC members failed to win back the hearts of voters in their respective Songkhaks. Some of them lost to the new candidates by huge margin. Former NC members of Bhutan Thong Jurmi, Tongsa's Dr. Jagar Doji, Justin Gurung of Sirang, and Jemgang's Pemal Hamo secured the least votes. Former Chuka NC members Hong Hamo secured only 34% of the total votes cast. And Wang Difodang's former NC member Sonam Yangchin lost to a new candidate by more than 2,300 votes. The voters in Linsi did give almost 40% of their votes to former NC member Rinzin Rinzin. But that was not enough to secure a win over the new candidate who beat him. And the former Mongar NC member Nechu lost to a fresh graduate by a narrow margin. This overwhelming preference for newcomers is being seen as voters opting for change. Some observers say the result also is a stark indication of people willing to take a risk by voting for new faces and of voters willing to take a chance by leaving the familiarity and placing their faith and confidence in new entrants, some of who are very young and has comparatively less work experience to their credit. Sonam Lhamo for BBS News.
Voter apathy is unavoidable in most democracies. It appears that even Bhutan has become susceptible to it. Although it is only the second round of elections, voter apathy appears to have set with less than 50% voters casting their votes in the 2013 National Council elections.
Trends elsewhere have been the same, even in some so-called advanced democracies, where the voter turnout seldom makes it to 50%. When the Election Commission of Bhutan revealed a voter turnout of 45.16%, or less than half of the Bhutanese voting population, exercised their franchise to elect 20 councillors, it did not come as too much of a surprise. It also appears that the voters prefer participating in the National Assembly elections, as they see it as a bigger election. Chief Election Commissioner Dashko Dondi even pointed out that the weather yesterday could have played a role as well.
Obviously, post-National Council also people thought that it could be not too important as much as National Assembly. So maybe similar mentality would still be prevailing. Then above all, we have to accept the fact also that weather on the eve of day was not too favorable. So a lot of people decided for some reason they can't go. They won't go to vote. So when your psychology not prepared, no matter what, the 9 o'clock the weather was good, you are already made up your mind. That was probably, I think, also reason.
The Chief Election Commissioner also shared that it was more disappointing to see lesser participation from educated voters. Dashko Dondi said the Commission will be putting mechanisms in place to enhance participation in future elections. For instance, the initiative Network of Bhutanese for Democratic Bhutan is expected to engage a wider network of intellectuals for ideas on effective elections, and establishing ERTC, an Electoral Resources and Training Center, a classroom exercise style, will carry out voter education and information dissemination. Meanwhile, out of 379,819 registered voters in the 20 Songkhaks, 171,544 voters exercised their franchise. In the 2007 National Council elections, 53% voter turnout was recorded. Sonam Phunso for BBS News.
Not a single women candidate has been elected as the National Council member, although more than half the electors were women. Is quota for women an answer then?
If the result of the National Council elections is anything to go by, more women needs to be encouraged to participate in the decision-making level. As discussion continues about the less representation of women in politics and decision-making, the Chief Election Commissioner said quota for women could prove useful and necessary.
Given the yesterday's kind of a situation, while we respect the wishes and the decision of the women, but some aspiring women candidates, sometimes maybe we will have to some form of quota concept may be useful, necessary. Because thing is this, we would lose in the critical decision-making positions, contribution of women or the women perspective.
Reports and publications also make a reference on general stereotyping that women do not make a good leader because of various other challenges. However, it is also considered important to have women at the decision-making to bring in the wide perspective of both the genders.
Particularly ladies, women, may also have to rethink of making concerted effort to give a little bit more support if there are capable women coming forward, not because of they are women, but given there's potential that they could contribute more.
There were 5 women candidates in the National Council election, but none of them won the election. And out of 300,000 registered voters, close to 200,000 are female. Pemasuki for BBS News.
The cabinet ministers have made it clear that they are not in favor of swapping candidates after the primary rounds of the elections. They said the morality of the candidates who joined winning parties is questionable and such a move could destabilize Bhutan's young democracy. They were responding to the question at the last Meet the Press on 19th April.
The cabinet ministers said though the constitution promotes multi-party, but it discourages the formation of coalition either in the government or opposition. However, they said there are loopholes which might lead to coalition indirectly, violating the constitution in subtle way.
Now, if some of the candidates decide to join either of the winning party, there is no law barring. But it would call for, firstly, the candidate accepting within a very short time new leadership. Secondly, even more serious would be the candidate accepting adoption of ideologies quite different from what he or she stood for when he or she joined the elections. So I think the electorate would look at these issues, or it should. If not now, it will definitely look at in the future.
I think the danger of this is that in future, not only people will gang up, but I think it's going to lead to a situation where the faith in the political system will go. There will be no trust and confidence in the parties, because people know that now parties are just being formed for the short-term convenience, but it's not very serious.
The Prime Minister also said it is like one party separated in several entities to have access to state funding.
Another question that comes to my mind is, when the Election Commission has funded, when the state has funded individuals, candidates, to join separate parties, following separate, different principles, ideologies, and programs, and so on, should such parties, such individuals not be penalized if they abandon their parties for whatever reasons and join a winning army as mercenaries? Should they be made to refund, perhaps, to begin with, what they received in the primary elections from the Election Commission? Should the Election Commission consider fixing a ceiling, a percentage, beyond which a party cannot accept candidates from other parties?
Prime Minister said the percentage should not be more than 7 to 8. He added that beyond that, there should be certain penalties imposed, perhaps even risks being expelled. Sonam Lhamo for BBS News.
The National Assembly dissolved last Saturday, completing its 5-year term since its constitution in April 2008. The members of the National Assembly offered Teshimelam at the Gyeongsang Sokang, marking the end of its term.
The members of the National Assembly gathered at Gyeongsang Sokang for the last time. The speaker said, as per the Constitution of the Kingdom of Bhutan, the National Assembly completed its 5-year term and declared the Assembly dissolved.
Kenchasumgi tuje meongada rinpochegi kuse wantang dumi yongge sonomle tente barking gaya meba drubje chendang takal chenbe tada tendel sambagi tole dugi chisu dangbegi gyong chodu di chatem chennogi gonden natil ranru namlo 추무 둘로 다와스베게 제2슈 지다시베게 제2슈루 롱오가기 니윤 리붐디 달레레 창외기 가다.
The members then offered Tashimelam. The session concluded with Prime Minister and the Speaker offering Tashikadar to the Golden Throne. However, the government will not be dissolved till the interim government is formed.
The Shungi Taka Hebdalu, the Sogdu di Nen Sambigi Jesu, the Shalang Changagi Nakenalu, the Mionga the Rumashigi, the Negabgishu, Shisunani, the Animodolo, and the Tidigi, the Sakarpins of the Tidigi, Jawara, the Nachi Shundia, Nen Sandigi.
According to the Constitution, an interim government will function for a period which shall not exceed 90 days to enable the Election Commission to hold free and fair election. The Constitution also states the interim government shall consist of Chief Advisor and other advisors appointed by Tukalpo. The Chief Justice shall be appointed as the Chief Advisor. The Prime Minister and other cabinet ministers shall resign from the office immediately after the appointment of the interim government. Sonam Hamo for BBS News.
Immediately after the dissolution of the National Assembly, the opposition leader Sring Topke and MP Damchudoji were White Cabinet symbolically giving up their parliamentary titles.
His Majesty has awarded the members of the Heng Junsu and the members of the Parliament with the respective communists in 2008, and today, as we complete our term, we have no right to cling on to this Kamnila. Thirdly, the Election Commission, by its laws and rules, debars any office holder as either as a minister or as a member of Parliament to give up all our offices and to go into the election as an ordinary common man.
The construction of the world's tallest Guru statue in Tangmachu, Lunsi is nearing completion. About 250 million Yultram has been spent on the construction of the 154-feet statue by the Druk Odiana Foundation, a non-profit organization.
The construction of the world's tallest Guru statue began in 2005 with just 200,000 Yultram in hand. Only in 2008, the Druk Udiana Foundation managed to raise a decent amount to begin the actual construction. And over the years, with donations from devotees from within the country and outside, some 250 million Yultram was raised and spent on the construction of the giant 154-feet bronze statue of Guru Nangsa Selnen.
Initially, we estimated the whole project to cost around 150 million Yultram, but as we carried out the works, the cost increased to 250 million Yultram, and we still would need another 4 to 5 million to complete the remaining works.
The statue, sitting on a 38-foot-high lotus base on a hill in Takila, overlooking Tangmachu village, will be a prominent place of interest for the tourists visiting the east of the country.
Almost 90% of the work is complete. We are expecting the construction to be over by July or September.
The statue will house 3 different hakangs: the Chekul Hakang in the upper floor, the Longkul Hakang in the middle, and the Tikul Hakang, and a museum in the ground floor. The Druk Udiana Foundation says Lord Buddha and the great Buddhist masters prophesied that the statue would bring peace and harmony in the world. Compiled for Sonamugen, this is King Rashi for BBS News.
32 families in Changjiji now have ownership of their apartments under the pilot housing project. The houses were constructed with assistance from DENIDA some 10 years ago. The agreements of the home ownership between the tenants and National Housing Development Corporation were handed over last Sunday.
44-year-old Sawang Nurbu lives with his family in one of the apartments under the pilot housing project in Changjiji. He works as a record assistant with RCSC. His apartment has 2 rooms, a kitchen and a toilet. Today, he owns the apartment where he has been living with his family for more than 7 years now.
We are very happy to receive the ownership agreement. For people like us, forget about buying a plot in Thimphu. We can't even afford the house rents. We are thankful to the government for giving us the house, where even our children and grandchildren can live in this apartment.
Like Sawang, there are 31 other families living in the colony, and they all have a reason to smile.
ngachi timbulu chimkhanla tebi dogo bachin ngachi tolobdi chungkube chimkhanla de bombe bishimle ngachi chimkhanla da dymisube de ro housing gi ngachi lo anizumchi zona midilo hitamikile rakadin ches
gomshudiru de ikhajomengo ba rangibe rangite pachimzumjibe dimi dejun kadibe namsime ngaso yula.
These 12 houses with 32 units was constructed as a pilot housing project for home ownership a decade ago. The civil servants from lower income groups occupied these apartments since 2005. However, due to some land issues, they were not able to hand over the ownership agreement. But the long wait is over as the Works and Human Settlement Minister Yeshijimba handed over the ownership agreement to them. Speaking to them, Lempo said one of the policies of the government is providing safe, basic and affordable housing to every Bhutanese. He added that it is the beginning of a major move in providing home ownership. The new owners will now have to pay a maximum of 2,500 niltam monthly as an installment for about 20 years. The land, however, is on lease for 30 years, after which they can renew the lease period.
After they have completed paying the installment of the cost of the house, they will be owning the houses and they have the right to modify the houses as per the, but they will have to follow the rules and regulations of the Thomde. While when the payment of the house has been realized, they will own the house, but the land will be on lease for them as per the Land Act and the lease rate will be as per the specification in the Land Act.
NHDCL says if this project is successful, they will be planning similar projects for middle and higher income groups. Sonam Lhamo for BBS News.
Tandin Wangchen once again won the title of Mr. Bhutan 2013, beating 13 other competitors at the 6th National Bodybuilding Championship. The championship was held on 21st April in Thimphu. Mr. Bhutan received a cash prize of 130,000 Yultrum from the Bhutan National Bank along with 2 Druke tickets to Singapore. Namge Heritage, a hotel in Thimphu, also offered a year-long gym membership. This is the second consecutive win for Tandin Wangchen. He won the Mr. Bhutan title at the 5th National Bodybuilding Championship held in May last year as well. This is all for this week. Do have a great weekend. This is Sharab Zangmo saying goodbye.